You know, a lot has been said. I've been watching and praying about how to respond, and people ask me my response about NBA player Jaden Ivey, his comments, and him being cut from the Chicago Bulls. And everything that I say to you today is from a place of love and a place of balance and reason. And, you know, I want to say a word about it. Jaden Ivey, a young man who has committed to his faith and committed to the Lord and standing on his faith and his principles. And he was cut because supposedly he's been preaching, going back to the Detroit Pistons and preaching to people and creating an uncomfortable environment and yada, 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 yada. And it had some major criticisms of the NBA about them having inclusion nights and celebrating Pride Night in the NBA, which brought a sense of value to the LGBTQ community. And he was cut by them. He's been going through some personal things. And I just want to offer some perspective on this because I think it's very, very important. Growing up in the South and growing up and as a heterosexual male, growing up in church, even though I was a musician and was involved in music, most of us were taught to really hate. They called it homophobia. We weren't scared. Phobia means scared. We weren't scared. We just hated. You know, a lot of us did unfairly treat gay people, and it's the truth. Even some of my early sermons, I said some things in sermons because of the vitriol and how I was raised. How can somebody be gay? How can a man like another man? That didn't make sense. You know, coming up in the South in church, that didn't make sense. And so sometimes you take that to the pulpit with you in such a way where you have a hierarchy. And this is what I've been trying to share with people, that when you live in America, that everybody doesn't have to agree with you. And as a pastor, I've seen so many of my members and people I've tried to minister to who have no relationship with their kids because of their sexuality. And I've been trying to show people that the love of Christ doesn't mean that you have to always agree with people. And when you say these types of comments, people think you're trying to condone something, or you know, it's a conversation that I got into not because I'm trying to justify anything, but because I believe that as people, we should be image bearers and we should love all people. And what happened with Jaden Ivey is he spoke out against the NBA celebrating Pride Night because he feels that it's unrighteousness. And I want to say this to those who are watching. You can have your own beliefs about what you think LGBT community is seeing or not. It's not necessarily about seeing your personal convictions. It's about the marketplace. It's about knowing that as a believer, you can be as vociferous or in opposition to the LGBT community, but you have to understand the bigger picture. Where do you work? For instance, if you are a school teacher in the public school system and you're a principal, there are certain practices that you cannot discriminate for hiring. That certain practices. Say, for instance, you wanted to hire a principal or hire teachers, but that teacher was of the LGBT community. You can't say in certain state or state-sponsored or public places of governmental places that I'm not going to hire them because of their gender or their orientation. And so you have to understand that as a believer, how do I have my convictions, but realize when I'm working in the marketplace, in the public square, whether it be the military, whether it's the mall, whether you go to the restaurant, that you have to know how to get along with people who don't believe what you believe. And so I don't have a problem with Jaden Ivey not believing or believing that the LGBT community is sinful. That's your personal theology. The challenge is you can't expect your employer, whose values see that differently. So I believe that we should have freedom of belief, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there will not be consequences, particularly for where you work. Second thing I want to say about this is that they're very careful, that we have to be careful too, that we don't castigate or ascribe, come across pharisaical or legalistic, where we think we're the only ones right. We call out people and say, this person's not saved, this person's not saved, I'm the only one right. Be careful, because ultimately God is the final judge of us all. And the third thing I want to say is we got to be gracious, not just to, and merciful and show love, not just to people in the community we don't disagree with, but also even Jaden Ivey. It's been reported that he's going through some personal struggles himself. He's been honest and transparent about things he faced as a child and what he felt, and made some comments about his family now. I think it's important to know that sometimes even when we find God or find faith, that sometimes we find faith from a toxic place, and we can move from one addiction to the next, and faith becomes a thing that helps us to deal with our traumas and being unhealed. And so a lot of times if you're not careful, faith can be used as a baseball bat and a weapon to hide our own insecurities and to use to mask the unhealed parts of our own life. And so I just want to say that in this world, we're going to have to be able to work with everybody. But as we work with everybody, it's important to know this, that in the public square, America affords us all freedom of religion, freedom from religion. And when you're in the public square, you may have to get along or work with people who don't share your beliefs and your values. You may have to work in some environments where proselytizing and preaching is not what happens in a corporate space. And you can't be there rebuking the enemy when you're at work. So we got to learn, how do I balance my personal theology but with public policy in the public square? So I just want to drop that on you. I'm praying for Jalen Ivey, praying for his health, praying that he would continue to walk with the Lord and find the Lord and find his own truth and find that Jesus does love us all. So we all need grace. We need it. Jalen Ivey needs it. Take care.